Kayla stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the delicate lace on her wedding dress. The gown was everything she had dreamed of. Ivory silk, hand-sewn beads, a trail that shimmered like morning light. She exhaled slowly, trying to still the flutter in her chest. Her makeup was flawless, her curls pinned back just right, and the necklace her late father had given her before the fire lay against her collarbone, catching the light. But beneath the lace on her left arm and shoulder, faint patterns of burn scars peeked through. She had chosen this dress deliberately, wanting to own her past. She wasn't hiding anymore, not today. There was a soft knock at the dressing room door. Without waiting, Brandon's mother, Celeste, stepped in, elegant as ever, with a face that rarely softened. She looked Kayla up and down and pursed her lips. "You should have covered that better," she said quietly, her eyes lingering on Kayla's shoulder. "It's distracting." Kayla's smile faltered, but she held her ground. "It's part of who I am." Celeste gave a tight, disapproving nod and left as quickly as she'd entered. Moments later, the wedding coordinator whispered, "He wants to see you." Privately, confused, Kayla walked to a side room just off the chapel. Brandon stood there, back to her, hands in his pockets. When he turned around, his face was pale. "Brandon?" she asked, already sensing something was off. He looked at her, really looked, and his expression twisted with discomfort. "Kayla, I can't do this." She blinked. "What?" "I thought I could," he said, voice low and fast. "I thought I could get past it, the way you look. But when I saw you today, with everyone out there, I realized I can't live like that. I'm sorry." Her breath caught in her throat. "Are you saying this now? Right before the ceremony?" "I'm sorry," he said again, avoiding her eyes. "It's better than walking out in front of everyone." He turned and walked away, leaving her standing there in her gown, frozen. The coordinator rushed in seconds later. "Kayla, they're waiting for you." She stopped when she saw Kayla alone, trembling. Whispers started to echo through the chapel. Guests looked around, confused, murmuring. The music faded. Somewhere in the back, a child asked, "Mommy, where's the bride?" Kayla slowly walked back into the bridal suite, hands shaking. She stared at herself in the mirror again. Same gown, same scars, but the woman inside it felt suddenly exposed, naked in a room full of people who would now know what it felt like to be abandoned for not being perfect. Tears welled in her eyes, not because she wanted him back, but because she had believed, even for a moment, that he saw her for who she really was. Kayla Monroe's childhood was a mosaic of fractured memories and painful silence. The fire that took her father's life had left its mark on her body and soul, deep scars that traced her left arm and back, like a constant reminder of that night. She was just 7 when the flames swallowed their home, and though she survived, she was thrust into the cold, uncertain world of foster care. For years, Kayla moved from one temporary home to another, learning early that safety was fragile and love was often conditional. Her mother, Clara, had disappeared soon after the fire. The wounds of abandonment ran deep, but over the past few years, Kayla had tentatively begun to rebuild that fractured relationship. Clara's visits were awkward at first, strained apologies, unanswered questions, but now they were making progress. Slowly, through sheer grit, Kayla fought to carve a new life. She poured herself into nursing school, determined to heal others, even as she struggled to heal herself. The emergency room became her battleground and refuge, a place where she could channel her pain into saving lives. The sterile bright lights didn't care about scars or pasts. They only cared about survival. Yet beneath her composed exterior, Kayla wrestled daily with self-doubt. She saw how people's eyes lingered on the scars, some with pity, others with curiosity or discomfort. It was exhausting to constantly feel judged. Her scars told a story she had no control over, and she longed for someone who could see beyond them. Then came Brandon Ellis. From the moment he stepped into her life, Kayla felt like the universe had shifted. Brandon was everything she thought she'd dreamed of. Confident, handsome, articulate, a lawyer from a well-known family, he carried himself with polished charm. He was drawn to her strength, he said, fascinated by her survivor story. At first, Kayla basked in the attention. After years of feeling invisible or broken, Brandon's admiration felt like a lifeline. But as their relationship deepened, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered doubts. Sometimes, his compliments felt like admiration of the scars themselves rather than of her. His family was particularly fixated on her past, a story they shared at charity events and fundraisers, turning her trauma into a trophy. Kayla convinced herself it was love. Love that looked past the scars. Love that would endure. She wanted to believe it so badly that she ignored the uncomfortable moments, the sideways glances, the occasional awkward silence when she removed her jacket, the way Brandon hesitated before holding her hand in public. Outside of Brandon's world, Kayla's life was relentless. She worked 12-hour shifts in the emergency room, juggling trauma cases, exhausted but refusing to break. Her colleagues admired her dedication, her calm under pressure. But when the lights dimmed and she was alone, the weight of her past pressed in. She fought insomnia, nightmares, and a gnawing fear that no matter how much she healed others, she'd never be whole. Her best friend Jasmine was her anchor. The two had met in nursing school, their bond forged over late-night study sessions and shared dreams. Jasmine was fiery, outspoken, and never afraid to push Kayla out of her comfort zone. "Kayla, you've got a story that can inspire millions," Jasmine told her one evening as they sat in their small apartment, the hum of the city outside. "You can help people who look like you, who feel like you do. You should start a blog or something. Be honest. Show the world your scars, inside and out." Kayla shook her head. "I'm not ready for that. My story, it's private. I don't want pity or attention. I just want to be normal, loved for who I am, not for what I survived." Jasmine frowned. "You are normal. You're human, and people will love you for the real you, not some image or story." Kayla smiled weakly, but the fear lingered. She wanted to believe Jasmine, but years of rejection had taught her caution. And now, with the wedding day behind her and Brandon gone, Kayla's private world was cracking open. She stood at the edge of something new, something terrifying. She just didn't know it yet. The silence after Brandon walked away from the altar was deafening in Kayla's world. But the real storm hit hours later when the news broke. Brandon's family released a carefully worded statement to the press. "Kayla is a beautiful person, but the emotional and physical scars were too difficult for our son to accept." The media seized on it immediately. Headlines splashed across websites, social feeds, and TV screens with cruel twists. "Burned by love, bride left at altar. The dark side of love and scars. Fiancé calls off wedding over burn injuries." Photos circulated. Kayla standing alone in her wedding dress, the lace slipping just enough to reveal her scars. Some captions were spiteful, others ignorant. Comments flooded in, some sympathetic, but many vicious. Kayla shut the blinds and locked her doors. Days blurred together in darkness. The humiliation dragged her back to childhood. The taunts, the stares, the whispered names she thought she'd left behind. She felt small and exposed, her heart raw and trembling. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing, but she ignored every message. The world outside had become a mirror reflecting every fear she'd ever buried deep inside. Then her mother, Clara, arrived unannounced. She looked older, worn by years apart, but her eyes held a desperate kindness. "Kayla," Clara said softly, "please come home. You don't have to face this alone." Kayla hesitated. The wounds between them were still fresh, but the thought of refuge was tempting. Across town, Jasmine was seething with anger. "Brandon and his family think they can break you." "No way," Jasmine declared over a video call. "You don't have to hide. You should tell your story. Show them who you really are." Kayla shook her head. "I'm not ready." But Jasmine didn't wait. She recorded a simple video, raw and honest. "She saved lives with these scars," Jasmine said, holding up Kayla's hospital ID badge. "He left her at the altar for having them, but her strength, that's what really shines." The video spread like wildfire. Within hours, thousands shared it. Celebrities and activists picked it up. News outlets reached out for interviews. Suddenly, Kayla was no longer the girl abandoned and shamed. She became a symbol of courage, but Kayla wasn't ready for this spotlight. Not yet. She was still piecing together who she was beneath the scars, and who she wanted to be. The whirlwind hit faster than Kayla could process. Her face, once only familiar to a small circle of friends and colleagues, was now plastered across every social media platform. Hashtags like "burned by love" and "Kayla strength" trended for days. Interview requests flooded her inbox, with offers to speak at conferences, podcasts, and panels. She was suddenly the voice of burn survivors, of women wronged by those they loved, of anyone who had ever been told they were too damaged to be loved. The world was watching her, but she never asked for this. At first, Kayla was paralyzed by it all. Her phone vibrated non-stop, each ping a reminder that her life had shifted in a way she didn't fully understand. She had always been a private person, someone who shied away from the spotlight, focused instead on the quiet work of saving lives in the ER. This sudden visibility was jarring. It felt like everything she had been avoiding, exposing her scars to the world, was now being forced upon her. She thought back to the moment she first met Brandon. She never wanted fame, just respect. But now, her face was a symbol. People were calling her brave, inspiring, but the weight of their words felt heavy. In a way, they were all strangers, projecting their own needs and perceptions onto her, seeing her not for who she was, but for what they needed her to be. The messages started pouring in, first from burn survivors, then from women who had been rejected for their looks, and soon after, messages from ER nurses and doctors who felt inspired by her resilience. Some were simple, heartfelt messages, while others were long, emotional stories of their own battles with shame, rejection, and the scars that life had left on them. Each one struck Kayla deeply. She felt a surge of empathy for these strangers, yet it also left her exhausted. Every time she opened her inbox, she was faced with the pain and struggles of others. While she wanted to help, she wasn't sure if she was ready to carry this responsibility. Dr. Aaron, one of her quieter colleagues in the ER, noticed her growing anxiety. He had always been the steady presence on their team, a man of few words but deep wisdom. One morning, after a particularly difficult shift, he found her standing alone by the coffee machine, staring blankly at her phone. "You didn't ask for this," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "But what you do with it, that's your choice." He gave her a small, encouraging smile. "You don't owe anyone anything, Kayla, but if you choose to use this, it's on your terms, and it's okay if you decide not to." Kayla hadn't expected that from him. Dr. Aaron, with his quiet strength, was usually the one to comfort patients, not offer her advice. But his words hit home. For the first time in days, she felt a glimmer of clarity. She could use her newfound platform if she wanted to. She didn't have to be anyone's hero or symbol. She could speak when and how it felt right for her. But the pressure continued to mount, and just when she thought she might regain some control, the real blow came. A legal notice from Brandon's lawyer appeared in her inbox. Brandon was suing her, and Jasmine, for defamation and emotional distress. Brandon claimed that the viral video Jasmine had posted had caused him irreparable harm, tarnishing his reputation and hurting his career. His accusations stung Kayla deeply. She had never asked for any of this, least of all the legal battle that was now unfolding. The irony wasn't lost on her. Brandon had left her at the altar, publicly humiliated her, and now he was accusing her of destroying his life because of the truth that had gone viral. She had never wanted to expose their relationship to the world. She hadn't planned on any of this, but now it was spiraling into a courtroom battle. Jasmine, furious and protective as ever, refused to back down. "He's trying to silence you, Kayla," she said when they spoke on the phone. "Don't let him get away with it. You have a voice now. It's your turn to speak." Kayla wasn't sure what to feel anymore. On one hand, she had this sudden platform, people reaching out to her for advice, support, connection. But on the other hand, it was a platform she never asked for. And now, with a lawsuit looming over her, she wasn't sure if she could carry the weight of it all. She remembered what Dr. Aaron had said. What she did with this moment was her choice. She could walk away from the public eye, let the media fade away, and return to her quiet life. Or she could stand up and fight, not just for herself, but for the people who had reached out, for the women and survivors who saw something in her that they desperately needed. As the tension grew, Kayla found herself torn between the life she had always known and the new, uncharted world that had opened up before her. Each day, she struggled with the constant pressure of the spotlight, the lawsuit, and the expectations of a world that saw her as more than she. Kayla sat alone in the small studio, the bright lights humming softly around her. Her heart raced, not from nerves, but from the weight of everything she was about to say. For weeks, she had avoided cameras, interviews, and the endless barrage of questions. But now, she knew it was time to take control, not for fame, not for sympathy, but for truth. When the interviewer asked her to tell her story, Kayla didn't hesitate. She spoke softly at first, then with growing strength. She shared the night of the fire, the chaos, the pain, the loss of her father, and the scars that marked her skin and soul. She talked about the years of healing, the loneliness, and the struggle to see herself as whole again. She described the hope she felt when Brandon proposed, the dreams she dared to dream, and the sharp, gut-wrenching moment he abandoned her at the altar. But she didn't speak with bitterness or anger. Instead, she told the world what no one else had. Brandon didn't leave because she wasn't beautiful. He left because he couldn't face his own shame, his fear of judgment, and his inability to love someone who didn't fit the image he had built in his mind. She looked directly into the camera and said, "Some people see scars and feel disgust. Others see survival and feel awe. Choose your lens." Her voice cracked with emotion, but there was undeniable power in those words. The interview went live, and within hours, the video exploded across social media. 12 million views in 48 hours. Messages poured in from around the world. Survivors, advocates, strangers, moved by her honesty and courage. Kayla was no longer just a victim or a symbol. She was a woman reclaiming her story on her own term. Brandon's lawsuit, once a looming threat, began to unravel. The court found no merit in his defamation claims against Kayla and Jasmine. Instead, the judge noted the clear public record of Brandon's own actions and statements. Kayla, encouraged by her lawyer, filed a countersuit for emotional damages. She cited the public defamation, the cruel statements released by Brandon's family, and the deep personal harm she endured. The case dragged on for months, but the tide had turned. Brandon's reputation suffered in the court of public opinion as much as in the courtroom. Stories leaked about his controlling behavior, his family's harsh judgments, and the pressure he placed on Kayla to hide her scars. Eventually, they reached a quiet settlement. No headlines, no grand announcements, just a mutual agreement that allowed Kayla to finally close this painful chapter. But the real victory wasn't the legal win. It was the freedom Kayla felt each morning when she looked in the mirror and saw not just the scars, but the woman she had fought so hard to become. She was free to live on her own terms, to love herself without apology, and to inspire others to do the same. For the first time in a long time, Kayla smiled, not because she was unbroken, but because she was whole. Kayla's world had shifted, not just in the glare of the spotlight, but in the quiet moments she had craved for so long. With the lawsuit behind her and a newfound sense of peace, she poured her energy into something bigger than herself. She founded Scars and Strength, a non-profit dedicated to supporting burn survivors emotionally and practically, offering counseling, community, and advocacy. Her hospital, once just a place of work, embraced her story fully. They featured Kayla in their public health campaign, showcasing her as a symbol of resilience and hope. The glossy posters didn't hide her scars. Instead, they celebrated her courage. Patients and co-workers, who once barely noticed her, began to see the full person behind the nurse's scrubs. Kayla found a new home too, a cozy apartment flooded with sunlight, the walls free of mirrors she'd once dreaded. She'd finally reclaimed her space, one where she could stand tall and unashamed. The apartment was hers, bought with money she earned through speaking engagements and donations to her nonprofit. It was a small victory, but it felt like the beginning of everything. Jasmine stayed by her side, now managing her public appearances and guiding her through the complexities of her new role as a public figure. "You don't have to do this alone," Jasmine reminded her, steady and fierce. Her friendship was a lifeline. And then there was Dr. Aaron, quiet, steady, the kind of presence Kayla hadn't expected to want. One evening, after a long shift, he gently asked her to dinner. No grand speeches or dramatic confessions, just an invitation to share a meal and real conversation. Kayla said yes, surprised at how much she was ready to open herself up again. The real turning point came at one of her nonprofit's first public events. Kayla stood on stage, heart pounding but steady. The room was filled with survivors, supporters, and curious strangers. For the first time, she slipped off her jacket, revealing her burn scars in full view. The room fell into silence, a hush that seemed to hold every doubt, every fear, every moment she'd fought through. And then applause broke out, soft at first, then swelling into a wave of respect and admiration. Kayla's eyes glistened with tears, but this time they were tears of triumph. In that moment, she wasn't just a woman with scars. She was a survivor, a healer, a beacon of strength who had rewritten her story with courage and grace. Kayla stood quietly in the middle of the open field where her childhood home once stood, a place reduced to ashes years ago, now just earth and wild grass swaying in the breeze. The sun dipped low, casting a warm golden glow over the empty space that had held so much pain and loss. She pulled a small, worn photo from her pocket, an image of herself as a little girl, smiling brightly despite the world already starting to shape her struggles. Kneeling, she gently placed the photo on the ground, letting the wind brush softly over it. Her voice, calm and steady, echoed as a gentle narration. "The world may remember me for my scars, but I will never let them forget who I became because of them." She rose slowly, a deep breath filling her lungs, the weight of years lifting from her shoulders. No veil obscured her face this time. No man walked beside her, just Kayla, whole, unbroken, and fiercely proud. With each step away from the field, her shadow stretched long behind her, bold and unafraid. She carried with her the strength born from pain, the courage forged in heartbreak, and the promise of a future she chose for herself. The screen faded to black. Hi besties, thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe.